Hi there, my name is Carrie Ann Holt. I'm the author of a lot of books for kids, for middle grade kids. I am going to start reading the first chapters of each of my books and putting them up on YouTube. And that way teachers can show their students, kids can watch it, and you can decide which books you like the most, which ones you want to check out. Kind of like a little book tasting while you're home. I know that there are several online libraries that will let you check out some of these. Well, I know all of them are available for ebook checkout with your libraries. And I know that there are some like the Junior Library Guild, which offer a few of my books for download for free. So I will try to find those resources and post them at the end of each of these videos so that you can find the books if you're interested. This one is called Mike Stellar, Nerves of Steel. This was the first book I ever wrote. This book came out in 2010, so it was a long time ago. It's just a regular book. A lot of my books are novels in verse, and this one is not. This is just a regular prose book, and it's published by Random House, New York. And I'm going to read to you, I think probably just the first chapter, maybe the first two chapters, we'll see. So at the beginning of the first chapter, there's this paper that Mike has written for class. I'm not going to read this out loud, because it's kind of hard to read this out loud. But you can see it's like a very corrected paper that he's written about terraforming, which is when you go to a planet and you try to give it a, a way for people to live on it. That's a bad explanation, but there you go. It's been a long time since I wrote this book. All right, so Mike has gotten a C+. Atmosphere. That's the word I'm thinking of. Terraforming gives the planet an atmosphere. Y'all, I have been home for a long time and my brain is melting. Also, did I explain to you why I'm reading this in my car? It's because inside my house I have 3 children and my wife is also working from home and our dog is going crazy. And so the only quiet place is my car. Yeah, I know. It's real, everybody. It's real. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1, Mike Stellar, Nerves of Steel. Rewrite 10-minute speech. I knew Mrs. Halebop was out to get me. I marched over to a tree, thought about kicking it, and stomped on the ground instead. Her giant head blocks out the sun, and her black hole eyes read my mind. I know they do. I shook my report at my friend Stinky for emphasis. It already took me like 8 million years to research this paper. Now I have to do it again and read it in front of people? I'm toast. Stinky stared at me with his mouth kind of open. I'm not usually a stomping and yelling kind of kid. Worse than toast, I continued, my voice cracking, making me madder. I'm oily, melted margarine dripping off of toast and onto the floor. I'll be smeared into the carpet at school forever. No escape. I crumpled up the cello page printout of my report and threw it into an ant bed I'd been nudging with my foot. The ants streamed over it, seething, taking out their frustration on my 100% recyclable, 100% doomed report. Mike? Stinky gawked as if my head had exploded. You need to seriously cut back on the drama? Stinky was always saying that. I could be on fire with robots eating my legs and he'd be all, calm down, man. Things will be fine. It was funny because just looking at him, you'd think Stinky would be the opposite. His hair stood up like his mom must have accidentally electrocuted him when he was a baby. His arms were splotchy with freckles. His laugh sounded like a machine gun. He seemed like the human embodiment of the word staccato. And yet, he was as calm as the wake of a dirigible cruiser. He was silly and fun and, well, not actually very stinky. But he'd been my friend since we were both in diapers, and I didn't care that people still jokingly held their noses whenever he walked by. You accidentally drop air freshener tablets into the boys' room toilets instead of the stink bombs you promised, and apparently you never lived down everyone's disappointment. Stinky was my best friend, and I listened to him most of the time. So I sat down on the ground, away from the ants, and put my face in my hands. You need to just relax, Mrs. Halebop. She's not the devil. I mean, she did give you a C+. That's 100 times better than your astrophysics report. I winced. I still didn't know anything about astrophysics. Thanks, I said. Stinky punched me in the shoulder. My mouth curled into a tiny O. If only he punched as carefully as he chose his stink bombs. Your paper isn't that bad, Mike. I know you feel this pressure or whatever because your mom and dad are big shots over at the project, but I don't think Mrs. Halebob cares about that. She might not even know about it. Ha! I said, rubbing my face in my hair. I smelled like shampoo, head grease, humiliation. Yeah, that was me, all right. Everyone knows who my parents are, dude, especially after, Well, think of it this way. After that disaster, she probably thinks you're not very smart at all, and she's cutting you some slack. Heck, I want some slack cut for me just because your parents I jumped up. Are you trying to make me feel better, Stink? Because it's not working. I couldn't believe he'd almost said what he'd almost said. Stinky, of all people. He never said anything about my parents, not even when Hubble was lost. I was really mad now. All my day's frustrations burning right between my eyes. It made me squint and frown and bite the inside of my cheek. I rubbed my palms on the front of my new solar pants that Stinky, who I thought was my friend, helped me pick out at the mall last week. What are you trying to say, Jaeger? I growled, using his real name, which I know he loathed. I marched over to where he stood. Are you saying my parents are stupid just like me? They killed a bunch of innocent people because they're so dumb? Stinky looked surprised and put his hands in the air like I was holding a particle gun on him. No, Mike, I was trying to make you feel better. Better? Accusing my parents of... I trailed off. The area around us suddenly darkened and I caught a whiff of burnt coffee beans. Mrs. Halebob. Her beehive hairdo towered over us, leaning forward off of her Jupiter-sized head. Is there trouble here, boys? She asked, through pursed lips, sunlight struggling to seep through her big blue hair. Do I need to involve Mr. Burton? I said. Stinky repeated. Our last involvement with the principal had left us both with 3 days of detention. I didn't think so, she said grouchily, leaning in closer to me so that I could nearly taste the burnt coffee smell reeking from her polka dot shirt. Don't let me catch you misbehaving, Mr. Stellar. She thrust a fat, old-fashioned book into my hand. It weighed about 1 trillion pounds. I stumbled forward a bit, dangerously close to actually touching Mrs. Halebob. You don't have to waste time now that your speech is due next week instead of next month. She stepped back with what seemed to be a gleeful look on her face. Or maybe she was just grimacing in the sunlight. But, I said, and let's hope you deliver your speech with more eloquence than your current rhetoric. She pointed an extra long, creaky-looking finger at me. Use that book to research your paper. Kids these days need to learn that there's nothing wrong with doing things the old-fashioned way. After a moment, she turned on her heel and walked briskly back to the classroom. I stuffed the 1,000-pound book into my bag. It was eerily quiet as Stinky and I continued to stare daggers at each other. Usually, you could hear at least a flag clanging against a flagpole. I looked ahead. The new flag was waving in the distance. It was a hologram installed by the PTA, a weatherproof flag that shines day and night. It gave me the creeps. No clanging at all. I couldn't believe I was thinking it, but maybe Mrs. Halebob was right. Sometimes old-fashioned things are better. I gave Stinky one last dirty look and stomped down the sidewalk toward home. I could hear him yelling, Mike! Are we still airboarding at Jones Park this weekend? Mike! After me, but I didn't turn around. As I walked home grumbling, I did have one slightly happy thought. It was Thursday. That meant Monster Metal Machines, my favorite show. Fierce Mangle and Predator duking it out in 3 dimensions all over the living room. I had to pick up the pace and make it home soon. Otherwise, my sister Nita would snag the remote and force me into watching some cruddy Earthlings for Earth propaganda. That would be just my luck, stuck with Neaters and her crazy, boring, brainwashing shows all night. I looked at the sky, wishing this day would hurry up, when I heard a buzzy, mechanical whir behind me. All right, I'm going to stop there. Mike Stellar, Nerves of Steel, my very first book. It was a fun one to write, I can tell you that. It was hard to write because I had never written anything that had a beginning and a middle and an end before. So it took a while to figure it out, but it's funny. And it has a lot of like action and adventure, and there's a mystery, and Mrs. Halebob isn't as mean as Mike thinks she is. And anyway, he's about to find out that his parents are making him move to Mars. So, okay, that's that for my Stellar Nerves of Steel. And I will see you again soon. Bye.